think about your future self, because whatever you're not investing in yourself today is going to have some sort of consequence in the future. Welcome, everybody, to Sally Speaks Mindset. I'm your host, Sally Arkell Bowles, and today I am super excited to welcome Rahle Dusheiko, who's a wellness guide dedicated to helping women over 40 live happier, healthier, and more integrated lives. As a professional life coach and yoga teacher, she combines coaching and mindful practices to help clients discover simple, practical tools for everyday life. Through her business, Bija, Rahle guides clients towards transformational change, encouraging small, sustainable steps that foster connection, balance, and empowerment. She helps women bridge the gap between feeling guilty about saying no to others. Oh my gosh, we're going to really dig in there. And a wholehearted yes to themselves, encouraging them to create a life they truly love. In her spare time, Rahle enjoys playing bass, diving into great books, and planning adventures in nature near mountains or water with her partner. She also loves good food and napping in sunbeams with her kitty cat. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. Well, today, tell everybody where you're calling in from. I'm in Auckland in New Zealand. I'm originally from South Africa. I've been here for just over 5 years. Awesome. So we have a very international woman with us today. And I think having that experience of moving from country to country also brings a whole new depth of wellness and well-being, because those changes are dramatic. I would think moving across the world like that. So we'll dig into that in just a little bit. So today we're going to talk about designing a life that you love, a creative path to well-being. So welcome, and I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit better and for our audience to really understand what it's like to have that well-being in midlife. Because as we know, as you transition through the different stages in life as a woman, different things start to appear for us. So can you share a bit about your journey to becoming a well-being guide? And what are the key experiences, members, or family influences that led you down this path? I never thought I would go into well-being, but I've always been interested in self-development and self-help and health. Growing up, there wasn't a huge emphasis on those sort of things, mental health in my family. Both my parents suffered from a lot of physical conditions, illnesses and diseases and pain. And I assumed for the longest time that that was normal. And until I discovered that it was not.
Yeah.
And so I guess when I also studied advertising, which can also be quite a challenging industry, in that it's quite deadline oriented, a lot of pressure, a lot of demands. I just started thinking about what are my values, what are my passions, what am I drawn to? And my mom is an identical twin, and her twin sister lives in America. I grew up in South Africa, and just seeing the differences between the two of them, definitely lifestyle, economic situation, all that sort of stuff played a role. But it was really interesting to have that paradox between two people that live the same being so different. And so it just always sort of piqued my curiosity. And to this day, curiosity is a huge superpower of mine. Like, is there something else here? Is there somewhere else this could go? Is there another way to do this? So that's basically some of it in a nutshell.
Well, that's interesting with your mom being a twin, but yet both sisters living in different parts of the world, yet completely different dynamic as far as how they chose to show up. So that's got to be a lot of learning in itself. But now, as we talked at the beginning, your immigration from South Africa over to New Zealand, how has that shaped your views on well-being and your personal growth?
Immigration is huge. It's something I completely underestimated. I can't say if I knew what was in store, I would have made a different decision, because 100% this was the right decision. But it's such a complicated process, and it throws up so much like change in such a big way. Even though South Africa and New Zealand are English speaking, they're both rugby loving countries. Not that I support rugby. The
culture is the same, but it's not really. There's a lot of unfamiliar things in terms of how things work. Starting all over again. I mean, in South Africa, I ran my own business, owned property, had my community, my friends, history with people. And there's a lot of grief. There's a big sort of grief that goes into the loss of the place and all the things that you've lost, but there is also a lot of excitement in the new, discovering things that, I never sort of dreamed of. There's also a lot more possibilities in certain ways living here, moving from being a business owner to being employed for a visa and then back to being self-employed. It was very interesting going back into work in the creative industry, how people's concept of self-care diminishes in certain aspects. I was very grateful that I had the tools to help me on those low days. I just felt really compelled to try and share them. 5.5 years in, things are still adjusting, still settling. I think it might always be that way.
So what were some of the
First of all, I
tools?
think it's about learning how to find the anchor in yourself. It's like wherever you are, it's that thing of whatever's going on outside versus inside. And can you find a place to be inside with yourself no matter where you are?
Because I think the environment can really have a tug on us as far as the environment that we show up in, the people we're showing up around, learning the new culture, even though they're English speaking, there's still a different culture between the different countries. And it can be very difficult for one to navigate just because it's not in their comfort zone. So what are some of the tools that you employ to help people with that understanding? Not that they're just immigrating, but in a situation where they're feeling uncomfortable in their environment. What are some of the tools that you would work with them on?
I think the most important thing, which is to externalize and get to know themselves, know how they are, how they feel about certain things within their lives, taking sort of a benchmark in all the things that's in the pillars of, the basics of, relationships and money or health or whatever it is that's important to them. And then also just thinking about what their values are, because it's not something that we consciously think about. We just know when they've been crossed or we know when there's been a difference. So before we dive into any sort of real journey, for me, it's always about like that planning, setting out for your journey. You kind of have an idea of where you want to go, but you kind of think, okay, well, I'm going to need to know these things in order to take that journey. And if you're taking the journey of yourself, you need to know where you are before you can go anywhere else, I think.
And how does that play out when you have a spouse coming with you at the same time?
Well, hopefully the things are aligned. I'm very lucky in that I've been with my partner for over almost 30 years, actually. We met at college. And it's about being able to be each other's rock and not at the same time. And also that patience and that, when we moved here, he was under enormous pressure in his job. I consciously chose not to take a high pressure job when we moved here because I knew there was going to be enough adjustment. I didn't want to be responsible for too much. And it's just of giving each other grace and a lot of patience, and realizing if there's a conflict, what that conflict is, whether it's something you're dealing with in yourself or somebody else, and are you taking that out on the person that's with you, and how you can rather be a support in a strange environment rather than at loggerheads with each other.
Yeah, because I think it can be very difficult for a lot of people to do that transition. And yet, the daily struggles can pop up at any point in time. And it's understanding and having compassion, like you're saying, for that other person to understand where they're coming from at that particular moment in that environment, to be able to respond in a certain way to a situation. And just to, being able to have a conversation about that and or an appreciation for where they are without judgment.
Yeah. Also, I think in our sort of mix, humor is huge. So like we can be serious and there can be the laughs and the tears, but laughing at ourselves or each other or a situation has really diffused a lot of potentially explosive situations. And actually, when I made the decision to go through with the immigration, one of the sort of agreements I made with myself was no matter how hard it was going to be, because staying was going to be hard, leaving is going to be hard. So we chose the hard. however, whatever obstacle, we met or I met, to not derail me, to kind of go, okay, there's this, let's go, and for the most part, I managed to keep it together. There were one or two times where I kind of threw all the toys up the cot, but, things like being able to turn around at the end of the day and just rather shake the head and laugh than like pound the fists against the wall is such a healthier way to go.
But this thing is what, take a note of that. So as a well-being coach, how is that different than a traditional coach? And can you tell us a little bit about what a well-being guide is and what that term really resonates?
One of the things that I did many years ago when I moved to Cape Town was I qualified as a mountaineer guide and a nature site guide. Growing up in Johannesburg, there's not a lot of mountains you can go hiking in. And so in Cape Town, when I moved there in 2002, learning about the safety on mountains, on microclimates and all the things, and also the routes. So, you want to do a certain hike, but maybe a tree has fallen or there's been a rock fall, and then you need to have the skills to be able to navigate around that. Somebody hurts themselves or doesn't feel well, whatever it is, like you need to be able to have a whole bunch of tools to get the people that you're with from the start to the end safely and intact. I just always loved that because I see this journey to the self as exactly that, as a journey. And I feel that's one of our most important reasons for being here. Well-being, sometimes I say I do struggle with this word because it seems like a luxury. It's like, you've got time for well-being, but it's, and I wish that there was another word and maybe one day it will be different, but it's kind of that being. It's like we are beings and we want to be well, and you need to go on a journey with that. And so even though I am also a qualified life coach, the beauty of coaching is that I don't advise or diagnose or treat anybody. It's more just about shifting how they feel about things. And as a guide, offering different tools or routes along a journey of where they want to go, where my clients want to go. And so there's a sort of basis of preparation, but everybody's different and everybody's well-being looks different. So it's not, follow this process and you'll feel better. It'll be maybe, for this month, this comes up for you, and the next month, this comes up for you. And so how do I hold that space for them when things that they weren't expecting to come up? Because it does happen all the time. They think that this is the issue, and then something else comes along. So it's like being able to rally around whatever it is that they need, having that flexibility, having that space for them.
I find that as well. And it is fluid, right?
Yeah.
People's journeys are very fluid, and it's important to allow them to work through those journeys. And in every journey, there's growth. And so as you're bringing that well-being forward, and I loved how you phrased it, that, we are all beings, and wellness is part of having that amazing being that you've created for yourself and where you're going. And I think so many people take for granted in our day-to-day, as we get busy with all the things, to forget about our well-being. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to just really embrace that and have the opportunity to show up as their best selves with that well-being. And I love how you said that. That was really, really cool. So Bija, is that how you say the name of your company?
Bija, yeah.
Bija? Okay. So that's a really unique name. So what does it represent to you, and how does it really reflect the philosophy and your approach to well-being?
So Bija, Bija, means seed in Sanskrit. And I've been doing yoga for many, many years. Well, almost 30 years, I think. And I've been teaching for about 10. And from the very beginning, I just fell in love with yogic philosophy because it offers a pathway to the self through self-compassion, practice, lack of judgment, spirituality without necessarily, diving into religion. And I really resonate. I find languages easy. So from the beginning, I was able to pick up Sanskrit, the names of the poses and concepts in philosophy pretty easy.
And what I loved about the phrase or the idea of Bija seed is from one seed, you know, literally you can get a big, beautiful tree from which many other seeds can be created or spread. And it's that from planting seeds of well-being, which is what I love to do. Maybe I'm in a way a bit of a farmer, I guess. It's like when you put that seed into the ground, you want to make sure that you're nurturing it with all the right things, the right amount of soil and sun and water and nutrients. And when it's ready, it sprouts and then it grows. If it gets too much of something or too little of something else, then it doesn't get to where its sort of potential is. And we're the same. If you give us too little love or too much stress, then it affects our potential of where we go. And, trees or even plants take ages to grow. They're not in a hurry, and so how do we integrate that sort of philosophy in our own well-being with this everything being so fast and furious these days is just having these small, consistent moments of nurturing ourselves so that we take ourselves more in the direction of thriving and doing well rather than wilting or drying out.
Love that. And the vision of the seed, I think everybody can really think about that. And the germination of a seed, when you plant a seed, there's a certain germination for every different type of plant. So part of that well-being is understanding that it's taking time to nurture yourself, to get into that space where you're approaching well-being in the different areas of your life. So each one is going to take a little bit different time to germinate. And I think, the concept of what you're really talking about is allowing yourself the opportunity to start planting those seeds and how to be able to nurture those to grow and to be offering you, that beautiful glow like you have right now. That's why, because you've done that work, you've done that inner work for yourself. And so you're a great opportunity here to really envision for others what it's like to have that well-being inside of you, because our glow comes from the inside.
Yeah, it does. And and like so I might look well and happy today, but that, it's not always a linear journey. But the thing with the seas is that it's also just about that interconnectedness between all the different parts of ourselves. So, I see there's different seeds within our well-being that happen and will grow at different times. It's just about that I love the fact that you use the word allowing, because that's exactly what it is. It's just that allowing. It's, a bit of that surrender. You create the space and you give it space and time and love and not, keep hammering away at it.
Exactly. Exactly. So now, from your previous background where you were doing interactive design, what lessons have you learned from that as you're going through your current journey, you're helping your clients with your journey, helps you with that creative problem solving and finding yourself, bringing into your own well-being work what's appropriate for your clients? So how do you marry the two? Because you've had this successful business before, you've got this well-being business. So there's so many learnings from each side. So how are you pulling that together for your clients?
My creative process was the same no matter what the project was. So just to kind of, I know a lot of people are like, what is an interaction designer? So what I did was I used to create digital experiences for clients, for museums or activations. So mostly either on screens or projections, and it would be things that people would interact with either through the screen or motion tracking. What was great was that every project or every brief was different. Every sector was different. The content was different. But people are always kind of the same though. Like they come in and they need to have a very small barrier to entry. So what does that creative process looks like? First, I think about what is that user journey? Like, what are they coming from? What is the first thing that's going to be something that they encounter? That's not a big leap. That's just something small and sustainable. And the other skills that I had to develop was, I like to call it content wrangling. So, a client would come and they have all the stuff that they want to put into it, all this information, but you can't throw that at somebody straight away because they'd be like, oh, this is just too much. And so, when I have a client, once we understand a little bit about them, I can't say, well, you should do this, and then they'll be like, not too much. So it's more just about letting the user lead what it is that they need. And I feel that there's a huge connection between creativity and spirituality, because when you approach something with a design or a creative first approach, it's expansive and it's curious. The other thing that I really believe in is that it's important that things look good. And I think that's something that we take for granted when we interact with an interface or a piece of information or a book or a PDF. When people are struggling to understand what it is they should be reading or understanding or getting out of it. So it's like, what does it look like? How does it feel to go through it? Then it's also about testing, so we would create these experiences and then test them ourselves. But the best was that people would come into these experiences and end up using the software in ways we didn't anticipate, and it still has to work. And it's the same in the sort of self-discovery or the guiding well-being phase, is that, I have this idea of a journey, and then somebody will pick up on something, and, how does the design process support that? Speaking to what it is that they need. And so that informs the way I prepare for yoga classes. It influences how I prepare my content, how I prepare journeys for my clients. I always start on paper first. I'm always scamping or writing ideas first before I jump onto the screen. And that's a really important step to kind of map things out and see how that will transpire.
I love that. And I wrote down a couple of things you said. The connection between creativity and spirituality is one and the same. So pulling those two together to understand that they are both connected allows you and your clients to be able to really tap into even more, I would say, a holistic feeling in their well-being right out of the gate, because you have that background and you bring that forward.
Yeah.
And then the point that you said, that it's important that things really look good. Right. Because it needs to not only be, so many of us are visual, number one, right? Others of us are more kinesthetic, etc. But we're looking at that and we're saying, okay, so also my being, how do I want to look?
Yeah.
Right? If I'm going to well-being, a lot of that is also to have my mind and my body portrayed in a way that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So I think when you're talking about those couple of things, that really resonated with me as far as, putting those two pieces together, because that's why a lot of people, especially get into the physical well-being, so that they can look their best selves as well as feel their best selves. With that consistent effort that they would put in over time would definitely do that.
I just picked up something on that. Is that one of the things that I also feel strongly about is that I'm not on any social media. I haven't been on the Insta or the Facebook for 11 years. And I've got a huge amount of flack from that, because I feel of that, how it feeds into that unhealthy perception or view of how we should look, the life we should be leading, what we should be doing, what is success. So that I'm consciously not on those platforms because of the triggering it has in me. And sure, that's my work. But also I don't want to be forcing people that may not want to be there or are there out of addiction to find me there. So that I'm a bit of a Luddite at heart, to be perfectly honest. And so I'm not against technology. I'm against the abuse of technology.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the work I do with people is, it's, some of the stuff will be on screens, but I'm like, print it out, go into nature, get to yourself, be in the physical reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really important. My husband and I also do a lot of hiking in the mountains, but I've been on 2 or 3 walks even today in between my work, because it's a beautiful day. It's coming up to winter, and it's like, I'm going to get out there and enjoy it as much as I can. But it also brings me that peace and that clarity when I'm out doing those types of things. So for me, that well-being is, I'm a farm girl. I grew up on a farm, and where we always spent our time. We grew our own vegetables. We had a large cattle farm, but it was definitely something that I grew up with, always appreciating life and nature. So it continues today. And I've got a beautiful view of a river right outside my back door here. And I'm always taking pictures of the sunset and, seeing the squirrels and the pups and all that kind of good stuff. But those types of things bring me joy, but it also brings me back to what life is all about.
Yeah.
Right. And it really helps to ground me. So it just clears my mind and allows me to just relax and enjoy my life.
Yeah.
So now, if you had one message or a soapbox moment to share with women who feel worn out and stuck, what would you tell them?
One of the things that I hear so much is this sort of battle of time for themselves, or this feeling of guilty of taking time for themselves. Now, I don't have children, and a lot of my clients do, and they're at various ages from preteen to teenagers. And it's such a hard mindset to speak to when they're already slammed with looking after the kids, running a business, or working for somebody else, possibly looking after parents. And time is, evaporating, and like the last thing they need is more stuff to do. My soapbox is about, like, think about your future self, because whatever you're not investing in yourself today is going to have some sort of consequence in the future. And I'm not talking about it harboring or like bringing doom, like, whatever it's that seed thing, whatever you're investing in, whatever small things you are or aren't doing now, just think about yourself in 5 years time or 10 years time, and I always think about, well, this may be hard now. I might not feel good about this now, but in 5 years time, looking back, I'm going to send myself, oh, thank you so much for making that decision, for making those choices, because look where I am now. And even now, looking back, to 5 years ago, what are the things that we haven't done that we would have liked to have done?
Yeah.
So it's just that constant investment in yourself. Like, yes, you need to invest in those around you, but you also need to invest in yourself. This is your vehicle for this game through life.
Mhm.
And the stuff we can't see needs a little bit of nurturing too. We speak a lot about physical health and not enough about mental health and mental fitness, actually.
Yes.
And it's about making that investment into yourself. And I think that if women can take that stance and actually turn around to the partners or the husbands, or can say, would it be, like, not even ask, like, I'm going to do this for myself so I can be there better for you. Be sure that nobody would go like, oh, no, 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 you can't do that. I'd be like, go right ahead.
Absolutely. And I think, it's so easy to fall into the patterns of your day-to-day life and not take care of yourself first.
Just one more email, or just one more this, or just one more that, and boom, the day's gone. It takes discipline.
It goes later. The older you get, the faster it goes.
It really does.
It does. So now, what lights you up in the work that you do, and what keeps you motivated on this particular journey?
I'm lucky in that I'm a naturally happy, energetic person. But on the days where I'm not, I don't stay there long. And I know a lot of people that aren't naturally like that. And if I can share what's innately easier for me with others, then I feel like that's my work. That's what I need to do. And, obviously there's all the sort of self-doubt that go, all the things, but it's, when I do share and do help, and people, whether it's a yoga class or a client or even just a friend in a conversation, it's like those ripples of happiness, those ripples of joy. I can't change the big things. I can only change the things around me and in me. That really lights me up.
Awesome. I made a post earlier today because my husband and I have gone for a walk because he works mostly afternoons and evenings. And so we went for a walk this morning and we stopped at our local Starbucks and we sat down and we had ordered our drinks, and then they brought them over to us. And mine says, smile today. So I made a post about it because it made me smile, even though, I know there was some things that we were going to be talking about that, are causing a lot of angst for my husband in particular, thinking about what future is like, whether we're going to move to another country, all these other kinds of things for retirement. And yet I still want to keep working and he doesn't. So it's like, that's okay because I love what I do. So I'm going to be passionate about it and I'm going to continue in some way, shape, or form. But all this energy was starting to come up, just being there. And then I got this beautiful message and it's like, yeah, I get to choose to smile. And somebody else suggested it, right? So it's how we show up and appreciate who we are and where we are in the journey that's going to help us in that well-being. So now any last tips or trips or tricks for people that you would suggest or anything that you would like to leave our audience with today?
Oh, one of the big things that I'm having a little bit of a dance with at the moment is just treating myself like I'm precious or speaking to myself like I'm precious. I get that from Julia Cameron from The Artist's Way, because that self-dialogue, and we may or may not be aware of how mean we can be to ourselves. Like, you go out and you get back next day and you go, oh, why did I say that? I'm so silly. Or I can't do this, or oh, I'm always, and it's just watching that. And, if it means that you have to write it out, speak to yourself like you are the most precious, special, magical thing in this entire world. And that helps, that changes everything. And you might not get it right every day. Just keep at it. Little seeds, little efforts all the time.
If you catch yourself going down that wrong path, you can flip it right away. You can say, no, 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 that's not me. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
I'm right. And it's, we're able to help people to see that how easy it is to actually shift that conversation that we're having in our own mind or how we look in the mirror and judge ourselves and that kind of thing. How can we just tell ourselves that we're beautiful inside and out and just believe it? Because the mind is such a powerful, powerful thing. And
it's a crazy place sometimes.
it can be really overwhelming. It can be really busy. At other times, it can just be full of joy. So I really appreciate you coming on today. Now, I understand that you have an opportunity for people to connect with you. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you're curious about anything that I said, then please reach out for a 45-minute virtual cuppa with me. Any cup of your choice, tea, coffee, or whatever. And just to ask any questions or see if there's anything that's coming up for you. Maybe we'll work together, maybe we won't, but it's no pressure, no strings attached. I just love getting out there and, getting to know people. So yeah, reach out.
Excellent. So we'll put that link in the show notes so everybody will have that. And so what are the other ways that they can reach out to you? So you have a website?
I have a website, which is bija, bija.co.nz. And I also have a small but growing YouTube channel, Bija Journey, which at the moment consists of some yoga videos, mostly for people. They're very simple and basic. There's heaps of bendy yoga channels out there. Mine is not that. It's more for women that are older, that aren't bendy, don't want to go to class, might have an issue with the shoulder or the hip. I talk a lot about anatomy so that you can get to know your body better. And eventually there will also be sort of well-being talks on there. So I'm on YouTube. I'm also on LinkedIn or Linktree. So yeah, all those details will be in the show notes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and being up so bright and early in the morning in New Zealand. I know it's there. And we really appreciate you coming and being our guest today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Sally. This has been great.
Oh, my pleasure. Have a great day.
You too.